How to speak for longer. So you have to speak for between 30 and 90 seconds. That's the requirement, but you should be speaking for 90 seconds to get the higher score. There are some techniques and some kind of tricks that teachers use to help you to speak for longer. The most common one, and one that's really effective, is called the PPF approach. So this is when you talk about your simple idea, you talk about it in the present, the past, and in the future. This allows you to take a really simple idea and speak about it in three different ways, expanding your answer. But on top of that, it means you'll be using some grammar tenses in the present, grammar in the past, and grammar in the future. And of course, grammar is on your Duolingo test grading. So this is an example. So we looked at this question earlier. Talk about environmental pollution in the place where you live. What causes it and what are the effects and how can it be controlled? So to begin, we'll talk about the present. Okay, we'll have an introduction. Littering is a big cause of environmental pollution where I live, and it's something I notice a lot in my city. Okay, introduction. Now we'll go into the present. You use a trigger word, nowadays. Nowadays, it seems like people have a habit of littering quite a bit, and unfortunately, this really contributes to more waste piling up and adds to environmental pollution. Because of this, you'll often see the streets scattered with trash, which makes the whole place look messy and not so appealing. It's kind of sad. It doesn't take much just to throw things in a bin. The more litter there is, the worse the area looks, and it just creates this unpleasant vibe all around. Okay, I've answered the question about environmental pollution, causes and effects in the present. This is probably about 30 seconds, so not long enough. So now I want to use this PPF approach to speak for longer. So rather than thinking of new ideas, I just think about the same idea in a different tense. In this case, we'll start with the past. Trigger, when I was younger. So now I'm moving to the past. When I was younger, people seemed to care more about keeping our city clean. There wasn't as much litter on the streets, and people made an effort to throw their trash in bins. Over time, though, that sense of responsibility has faded. Now there's a lot more litter, and it feels like people don't care as much about their surroundings anymore. It's a big change from how things used to be. Okay, past. Good. Made my answer from 30 seconds to about 50 seconds, probably. And now I'm going into the future to expand even more. I hope that government steps in soon with stricter laws to stop littering. Stronger rules and bigger fines might make people think twice before throwing trash on the streets. With stricter laws, we could start to see cleaner streets and less pollution. Okay, so that is the PPF method. This is taking one simple idea, littering, and talking about it in three different tenses, present, past, and future, and making my answer go from 30 seconds to close to 90 seconds with just one simple idea. This is a really useful technique for you to think about if you run out of ideas and you want to continue speaking about the same, your original idea. You can think about the PPF method. These are some transition phrases you can use. So when you are jumping and moving from each tense, present to past to future, you should use some kind of transition phrase to signal and show the Duolingo AI and examiner that you're now talking about the different time period. So these are a bunch. You can download this PDF in the VIP. You can see it in resources or in the comments under this lesson. But you can see at the moment, I tend to, everything that's italicized, this can be changed. It's just examples, right? So you can say at the moment, people are, doesn't need to be I am. Okay, another way to speak for longer about your simple ideas is to also tell a personal story. You can do this. You can talk about the past, present, and future. And if you still need time, you can just make up a story. It can be a real story or it can be made up. It doesn't matter. So, again, based on this topic, this is my simple personal story. I actually have a personal memory related to this, to littering. I remember when I was younger, maybe 6 or 7 years old, I threw an empty water bottle out of my dad's car. My dad saw me and he was absolutely furious and just expressed how disappointed he was in me. I remember feeling really ashamed at that moment, and it made me realize the importance of keeping my city clean. Since then, I've been much more conscious about not littering. So you can imagine you've done PPF plus a small personal story about all about the topic of environmental pollution. Your one idea, littering, has now lasted at least 90 seconds, probably more like 2 minutes if you're doing a speaking sample. So those two approaches will mean that you always have ideas, you'll never run out of things to say. And if you do run out of things to say, you get stuck mid-speech, you could think, okay, PPF or personal story, like what can I do to fill in this gap? When it comes to a personal story, you need to signal and show the examiner that you're now telling a story. Something like this. I actually have a personal memory related to this. And here are a bunch of other phrases you can use. I can recall a specific moment when I threw a water ball out of my dad's car window. Speaking of this, I remember a time when I littered in front of my father and he told me off. These types of phrases signal that you're now moving from an idea into a personal story. So use these. Again, these are all in the PDF. You can download them and practice with them. I got some homework for you, but before we do the homework, does anyone have any questions?